Welcome. You know that weird smell when your cooking oil has been sitting around too long? Or when a bag of nuts just tastes off? Well, today we're diving into the invisible science behind that. We're going to explore the chemical reactions that turn our food from fresh to foul. And trust me, it matters on a massive global scale. So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll get into why fats are so important in the first place. Then we'll meet the chemical villain of our story, lipid oxidation. We'll get right into the nitty-gritty of that chain reaction, see what makes it go even faster, and then we'll zoom way out to see the staggering real-world cost of all this. All right, let's dive in. To really get a handle on why food goes bad, we have to start with the main characters in this whole drama, the fats themselves. We hear these terms thrown around constantly, right? Good fat, bad fat. But what's the actual deal? It's really not just about calories. It's about the very structure of these molecules and the jobs they do in our bodies, everything from building our brain cells to keeping our organs safe. You know, it really is all about balance. Yeah, you've got things like trans fats, which we all know are pretty harmful. But on the flip side, there are fats that are absolutely critical for us to live. Our brains, our hormone production, our immune system, they all rely on getting enough of these essential fatty acids. And that right there is why spoilage is such a huge deal. It goes after and destroys the very fats we need the most. Okay, so now let's meet the process that can turn even those good fats into a problem. This is the core mechanism, the thing that actually makes food go rancid. In simple terms, this is the scientific name for when fats go bad. And the key culprit in this whole disaster is something that's literally all around us, all the time: oxygen. The moment fats and oxygen start reacting, things just start to fall apart. And let's be really clear here. This isn't just about a funky taste or a bad smell. Lipid oxidation is an active process of destruction. It wipes out the nutritional value of our food, destroying those essential fatty acids and vitamins we were just talking about. And even worse, as things break down, it can actually create new compounds that might be harmful to our health. So how does this breakdown actually happen on a tiny molecular level? Well, it's not just one single event. It's more like a destructive, unstoppable chain reaction. So the most common form of this is something called autooxidation. You can think of it as the default setting for spoilage. It's the slow, steady way that fats break down over time just from being exposed to the air. It kicks off all on its own, but as we're about to see, some things can really stomp on the accelerator. It all happens in 3 stages, and it's a perfect domino effect. First, you have initiation. That's the first domino getting flicked over, creating one unstable molecule called a free radical. Then comes the real chaos, propagation. This is the vicious cycle where that one radical slams into another molecule, turning it into a radical, which then goes on to create another and another. It's a runaway train. And finally, you get termination, where the reaction peters out, usually when 2 of these radicals find each other and cancel each other out. Okay, I know this looks a little sciencey, but hang with me. The idea here is actually really simple. See that cycle in the middle? You've got one bad guy, the free radical, that attacks a perfectly healthy fat molecule. In doing that, it not only damages the healthy one, but also turns it into a new bad guy. That new free radical then just goes off and repeats the process on another healthy molecule. It's a chain reaction that just feeds itself, a cycle of destruction that keeps going and going. So that slow burn process of autooxidation is already pretty bad. But as it turns out, there are things in our environment that can basically hit the fast forward button on this entire process. Okay, get ready for this number, because it is absolutely wild. When you bring light into the mix, a process called photooxidation, things can speed up by over 1,000 times. That's not a typo. 1,000. This is the entire reason your expensive olive oil comes in a dark green or black bottle. That dark glass is literally a shield trying to stop this incredibly fast reaction from ruining your oil. So how in the world does light cause so much damage? Well, this diagram lays it all out. At the top, you've got light energy hitting a sensitizer molecule, like chlorophyll in a plant. That molecule gets all excited, and it passes that extra energy onto a normal oxygen molecule. This creates a supercharged, super aggressive version of oxygen called singlet oxygen, and that molecule is the real troublemaker. It can attack fats directly and with way more efficiency, causing that super fast spoilage. Now, besides light, there's one other major speedster: enzymes. As you can see in this comparison, enzymes that are just naturally present in raw foods act like these targeted biological machines. So unlike the random chaotic attack of autooxidation, enzymatic oxidation is super specific and incredibly fast. It's exactly why a cut apple or avocado turns brown almost right before your eye. Okay, so let's pull back from the microscope for a minute. We've seen all the chemistry happening at this tiny molecular level, but what does all that tiny destruction actually add up to in the real world? Well, the consequences are just staggering. Just look at this number, 20 to 30%. That's the percentage of fruits and vegetables that are lost after they've been harvested in a country like Nepal. That means nearly a third of all that produce can go to waste before it ever even has a chance to reach a dinner plate. And this isn't a small, isolated problem. It is a massive global issue. Every single one of those molecular reactions we just talked about, the oxidation, the enzymes, they are the direct cause of this. This is food that was successfully grown but is never eaten. It spoils somewhere along the way, during handling, transport, or storage. So how does this spiral into a global problem? Well, the environment itself basically becomes a giant catalyst. High temperatures, like the sun just beating down on crates of produce, speed up every single one of these chemical reactions. High humidity makes things even worse. And then when you combine that with poor infrastructure, not enough refrigerated trucks, for example, it just means that food is sitting in these damaging, spoilage-friendly conditions for way, way too long. And that really leaves us with this final big question. How do you even begin to fight a global problem that starts with a single invisible molecule? Well, understanding the science, from that very first domino-like free radical to the environmental things that push it faster, that's the absolute first most critical step. If we can tackle the chemistry, we can start to innovate, find better ways to preserve our food, cut down on waste, and ultimately do a much better job of feeding the world.